Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dalton Swett here, and like many of you, I am quarantined because of the coronavirus. In fact, I'm actually at my parents' house and spending time with them and my family. Also, because of quarantine, I have not been able to get a haircut, hence I am wearing a hat because my hair looks atrocious right now. But with all this quarantine stuff going on, I'm thinking to the future, and I'm thinking back to, better times when hopefully all this clears up and we will be able to travel the world again. So, as some of you know, if you've been following me for a while, my last big trip was I went to Greece, and I figured maybe I could make a little informative video of things you should know before you travel to Greece. Now, I do know recently I've gotten a ton of subscribers that are actually from Greece. You guys have been watching my videos. So at the end of this video, if you feel like there's anything maybe I left out or should have talked about, feel free to leave a comment down below. Make sure other people know for when maybe they eventually travel to Greece, or maybe if there's a certain detail in something I say that you feel like I missed, maybe feel free to leave a comment about that. But let's get to the main part of this video. 10 things you should know before you travel to Greece. Number 1, don't flush the toilet paper. Now, this is one of those things that I was completely unaware of before traveling to Greece, and it's one of those things where I wouldn't have known unless when you go into a lot of the bathrooms in Greece, particularly around the touristy areas like in Athens or Chania, you'll go into the bathroom, there will be a sign that says, "Do not flush the toilet paper." And this is apparently because a lot of the plumbing in Greece is a bit older. I read one thing that said it was simply that the plumbing tubes are much narrower than they are in America. I don't know how true that is, because I only read that in one article about this. But it's something that they say, if you're flushing the toilet paper there, you're gonna clog all the drains. Okay, so what are you supposed to do with your toilet paper? Well, in all the bathrooms right by the toilet is a bin, and that bin is meant for you to drop your toilet paper in there instead of flushing it. Because like a lot of us, you're used to just dropping your toilet paper in the trash. Don't feel too bad if you do it maybe once or twice. It's not going to be a huge issue, but it's certainly something that if you and other people do it consistently, the likelihood of clogging the drains is super high. Number 2, tipping. Now, I think this is something for a lot of Americans that, of course, in America, we're super used to tipping. It's a myth that's kind of been concocted over the years here in America that in Europe, you don't tip. It's just because they're poured in more reasonable ways, so that you're not expected to tip, you're not expected to give them any kind of extra money. And it's not really true. The major difference is actually in the percentage that you tip. Kind of the general rule here in America is you want to tip anywhere from like about 15 to 20%. In Greece, it's a bit lower. They're kind of more expecting you to pay maybe about 5% of the bill when you go there. The general census is just you're kind of leaving coins there for just whoever the busboy or busgirl is to get a little extra pay for them. Tipping people also, like drivers and stuff like that, it's generally not a huge part of the thing, but it's probably a good idea to just leave a little extra coins, particularly if you are a tourist, because the drivers will be used to that kind of stuff. It's still part of the culture in Greece. You are expected to tip. Number 3, pickpockets. Now, to be fair, this really isn't necessarily a Greece thing. I think this can kind of be a major and important note to consider when you're traveling in any major tourist city or town. And my experience with it happened on my very first full day in Greece. So I woke up real early. The sun was just coming up. I was walking past a bunch of little shops that they weren't open yet. People were kind of getting ready and opening up. And I had my backpack on me, and I was just walking through the town. I was heading over to the Acropolis, and as I was walking past, this woman who was opening her shop kind of yelled out to me, and I didn't quite hear what she said, but I just assumed that she was trying to get me to come in her shop and buy some stuff, and I didn't have any interest in that. And then she called out again, and I heard her very clearly say, "Put it in front." So I kind of look at her, and she motions like this, like she's wearing a backpack, and she says, "Put it in front." And what it was, she was telling me to put my backpack actually on my front of my chest rather than on my back to avoid pickpockets. Wearing anything like a backpack or holding a bag in your front is kind of a good way to avoid pickpockets, because particularly when you're walking through big crowds of people, which especially if you're in Athens, there is going to be large crowds of people, it's a good idea just to keep it in front of you. Now, like I said, this isn't necessarily a Greece thing. I would say this is any kind of major touristy area thing. If you're going through a big place where there's a lot of big crowds, probably a good idea to just wear your backpack if you have anything like a backpack in front. It makes it certainly a lot harder for people to pickpocket your bag. Number 4, souvenirs. I would say this is kind of like a general touristy recommendation, although I definitely noticed it on my Greece trip. You're going to find a ton of stores that will be selling things, you know, even the shirt I'm wearing. This is an awesome Poseidon shirt I picked up while in Athens. They're going to be selling stuff, and prices can be pretty radically different depending on where you're going to buy them. It's interesting because a lot of the stuff that you can come across, if you're going to walk into one store that's selling souvenirs, chances are you're going to walk down the street and you're going to see another store selling that same thing. And I have noticed that certainly the closer you are to major tourist destinations or sites, chances are the higher the price for that souvenir is going to be. Now, obviously, I'm not a huge knick-knacky and touristy guy, although I did get plenty of these kinds of shirts when I was in Greece. I'll give you a perfect example. When I was in Chania, I went down to the harbor, and there was a store that was selling, again, some graphic shirts. This was more of like a specific kind of Crete graphic shirt. It made reference to the Minotaur, and so I thought it was real cool, so I bought that shirt. I ended up walking, and I walked maybe not that far. I would say maybe only a couple blocks away from the main area, and I came across another store that was selling, again, some of these same kind of graphic tees, and I found the exact same shirt for €3 less. So when you're going around and looking at souvenirs, don't be afraid to go into a place, see something you like, take a look at the price, but don't feel like you have to buy it right then and there. Chances are you can find it someplace else and it'll be significantly cheaper. Number 5. There is an abundance of stray animals. I noticed it in Athens a lot, but I even noticed it in Chania. There are a ton of stray dogs and stray cats just kind of wandering about. I read up on this a little bit, and essentially what's been said is that the cities have adopted the stray animals. What that means is basically a lot of locals and stuff like that would come across, they'll feed the stray animals. Some people would even take them in and get shot. And it was pretty common to see a stray animal with a collar on. And the collar is kind of how they keep track of, what animals have had what shots. Some people may tell you that, these animals, they're stray, but they have a very happy life. The people take care of them. And while that certainly was the goal, that's not necessarily the truth. Turns out a lot of these stray animals, since Greece has hit its recession, really started to suffer. They've also run into a major issue of people who have had a dog or a cat and have decided they can't have that animal anymore. They just kind of will drive somewhere in the city and let the animal go. It's a real unfortunate thing because the attitude has kind of become, well, the city will take care of it if I can't take care of this animal, so I can just kind of, shirk any responsibility I have. But it's something to certainly be aware of. There will be a lot of stray dogs and cats throughout the city. They're all pretty mellow and going around, and I certainly did see some locals feeding them. But certainly be aware. They're there. They're going to walk around. They don't seem to really bother anybody too much. If they're friendly, go ahead, give them a little scratch. They're real nice. Number 6. You get yourself some free liquor. So this is kind of like part of that hospitality thing with Greece, is it's pretty common if you go to like a sit-down restaurant in Greece and you have yourself a nice full meal, you'll get free liquor at the end of your meal. Now, depending on where you are, the free liquor may change. When I was in Athens, and I went to a nice sit-down restaurant and I got my free liquor at the end, it would either be ouzo or something called mystika. Mystika had kind of a minty taste to it. So it was almost like getting a mint at the end of your meal. When I was in Athens, it was pretty similar because they would just come out. It would be like a real tiny, half a shot glass. And it was just something, it was supposed to be like a palate cleanser at the end of your meal. Now, when I went to Chania in Crete, it was a little bit different. At the end of the meal, they did the same thing. They brought you some liquor to go at the end of your meal. However, what the liquor was different. The liquor was actually, and I talked about this in some of my Crete videos, but it was what's called raki, which is the traditional liquor of the island of Crete. It's a pretty strong alcohol, and also when it comes, they bring it to you in like a little flute, which has roughly like 4, maybe 5 shots in it, and you're supposed to drink it. Now, generally, I think when they bring you the flute, it's supposed to be because you're kind of eating communally. You know, eating out is very much a family thing in Greece, and you're supposed to kind of, you know, everyone gets like a shot of it. And the first few times it happened, I was like, oh, okay, well, they gave me this liquor. I have to drink all of it, which is a horrible idea. Don't do that. You're going to be having wine. You'll be having beer with your meal, your dinner, and then at the end they bring you a flute with 4 shots of it, and so you've already had, you know, maybe a couple drinks, and then you're just sitting there downing these shots of raki. But it was funny because the first several times it happened, I felt the need, like, okay, well, they've given to this, it's complimentary. I have to drink it all. No, you don't. You don't have to drink it all. It's totally okay just to pour yourself one or like half of one and sip it, and then, you know, say, all right, guys, good night, thank you very much. For some reason, and I don't know why, I got it in my head that I had to drink the entire flute the first several times it happened, which is ridiculous. I don't know why I thought that. It's totally okay. No one's gonna get mad at you if you don't drink the entire flute of raki. No one's gonna care. Number 7, it is totally okay to just sit at a cafe and chill. And I knew, like, going out to a cafe and getting your coffee and sitting down was a huge part of Greek culture, but I don't think I quite understood how much it was part of Greek culture. It's totally okay to just go to a cafe, order a drink, sit there, and that's it. People would sit at cafes for a long time. I remember one morning waking up, going out, and I was walking past this cafe, and there was like these 4 guys that were kind of sitting there, and they were drinking their iced frappes, and it was pretty early in the morning, and I remember walking past them. I think I came back about 3, might have even been 4 hours later, and I walked past that same cafe, and those same 4 guys were still there just sitting and talking. I suppose as long as you order a drink or a pastry or something, and you just gonna want to kind of sit there and chill and read a book or talk to your friends for hours, it doesn't seem like anyone's really gonna stop you. Number 8, don't eat at the harbor. Now this one is kind of more specific to Chania, but there are a lot of kind of cheapo restaurants that don't serve good food and things like that down at the Chania harbor. Obviously it's super competitive down there. I mean, when you go down there and you're walking through the harbor, people are going to be yelling at you to try to come into their restaurant. The prices are astronomical and the food is not worth it for it. I mean, I think a lot of people want to eat in the harbor because of course you get the nice kind of seat and you're by the water and you can see the lighthouse, and it seems like a good idea. It seems like a place that you would enjoy being, but it's just, in my opinion, it's certainly not worth it. You can walk away from the harbor and as little as a block, and you will see, much more reasonable prices, and the food will be so much better. Number 9, scooters can go basically anywhere. Now, this isn't something I necessarily know if it's like true from a legal standpoint, but it is true from a literal standpoint. These scooters that will be in and around town and the city, they will drive anywhere. There were several times where I thought I was in like what would have been a only walking area for people. So no cars, no vehicles, and every so while a scooter would just come right through the area. I remember at one point I was going through like a really busy like shopping area in Chania, and just this scooter just came right through like all this huge crowd of people, and people had to get out of the way as the scooter was just driving through. Just make sure, keep your ears and your eyes out for scooters. And number 10, people smoke everywhere. Now this is something that certainly surprised me about Greece while I was there. I was not quite aware of how much people smoked. There was a ton of people, because obviously here in America, it's completely against the law to smoke in restaurants, any kind of enclosed spaces with people. Yeah, so apparently about 72% of restaurants in Greece allow smoking. While I guess Greece has made efforts to try to kind of curtail stuff and make it so people can't smoke in certain places, it's not something that I guess is being necessarily readily in force, at least at this time. Maybe that'll change. Hey, and if you're Greek and you're watching this video, let me know your thoughts about smoking in restaurants. I wish you all the best. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope things continue to get better. I will see you in the next video.